BMitch and I were just debating. I don't even know if it's a debate yet because we haven't seen anybody in pads, right? Like it's just so premature. But who do you think is your starting left tackle by September 8th?
It's a good question. I think it's going to be Cornelius Lucas to start the season. I've been kind of on that. I think that they are going to want to let Brandon Coleman marinate a little bit and get moving. But you know what? Once they put on pads, he can make a real definitive move towards it. And I don't know that. I think that the best of Brandon Coleman is going to be better than the best of Cornelius Lucas. I just don't know that within whatever it is, 5 months or 6 months of the Commanders drafting Coleman, they're going to be able to get him to that level right away. So I do think it'll be Cornelius Lucas, but with his athleticism, once we see the pads on, and he's going to have every opportunity to win that job because he's probably the best option long term.
I think you said it about what if it's Coleman and Lucas and Wiley's not out there? Did you say you saw that?
Yeah, so I mean, certainly during the 11-on-11 period in the last OTAs we were there was a fair amount of Coleman at left tackle and Lucas at right. But there was also plenty of Lucas at left and Wiley at right. So it's not that I think they're trying to figure out. They're trying to give guys reps at different positions, and the fact that Cornelius Lucas has the experience as that backup swing tackle, and the fact that he's played on both sides in the NFL, gives them that flexibility to figure out what makes the most sense. And certainly, we'll see kind of how it plays out once we get to training camps and once we see them in pads against a real pass rush or, in real 11-on-11 drills. But there's certainly a scenario where all three of those guys are most likely going to start games this season at some point.
Yeah, I think Lucas, since he's a swing tackle, you want to get that experience for him. Wiley being an older guy, they probably give him a little time off every once in a while.
Yeah, and also let's not forget that Wiley has a little experience playing on the inside as well. And so, depending on what happens at left guard and kind of how things play out with Nick Allegretti and Michael Dieter and, I guess if you want to go back to Chris Paul and Ricky Stromberg in that group, the idea that these guys have the ability to play multiple positions is, in theory, a good one. It's how it works out in practicality. But as far as, we're talking about tackle, I do think we're going to see Lucas probably start games this season, both at left tackle and right tackle. I think ultimately Brandon Coleman takes over and starts the most games this year at that position.
It's going to be interesting to watch unfold. We're talking with our friend Mitch Tischler here from Monumental Sports, Beltway Football. You can follow him at Mitch Tischler. There's an underscore in there because he refuses to adjust to the times. What did
that man can use his underscore. Why you hating?
What did you think of?
You tell him, B.
What did you think of Jaden Daniels' first pitch?
You know what? It was pretty good. It was
that wasn't good, Mitch. Stop lying.
Listen,
he threw a lob pass way into the batter's box. Didn't even cross the damn plate.
Did you see John Wall's first pitch?
Hey, John Wall shouldn't have to throw a ball good. He's not a guy throwing balls.
Did you see C.J. Stroud's first pitch?
No. Where's that?
Yeah,
better than Jaden Daniels was better than his.
Well, C.J. Stroud.
Wait, Jaden Daniels was better than C.J.
Stroud? Pitch sucks too.
Yeah.
We did a whole segment breaking down various quarterbacks' first pitches. You know who had the worst one we saw?
Who's that?
Alex Smith. It was bad.
Yeah, it was god awful.
Was it in Kansas City or in San Fran?
In San Fran. I got C.J. Stroud now. B, you ready? All right, B mentioned, oh, gosh, these commercials. I recognize I work in media. I shouldn't be mad about commercials.
Yeah, you're getting that commercials.
But I think it's cool that Jaden was there and is already, embracing everything. I thought Jaden handled everything very well.
That's all good.
Except for the pitch. He had a very good chest bump with Major Tutty.
We have to be able to critique things, man. We don't have to be positive about it all the time.
I agree.
As long as he can throw a football, that's what I care about. But still, that pitch wasn't good.
Yeah, listen, you had C.J. Stroud and Micah Parsons both threw in Tokyo this summer, and C.J. had a good wind up and whatnot. But if I remember correctly, I think he threw it pretty far out there.
All right, we've now located the video. CJ Stroud going to the plate. This is in Tokyo, you're telling me? I thought this is in Houston, I think. He has like a weird astronaut looking baseball jersey on. All right, he's on the rubber. He's at the mound. CJ Stroud just rewrote the record book for rookie quarterbacks. On the rubber, appreciate that. He throws a strike.
He threw a strike. What are you talking about?
Yeah, Mitch, you got bad info, dude.
The one that the poorer one that I saw was in Japan, not in Houston.
Is Mitch fake news about quarterback first pitches?
That, man.
I mean, you might be fake news.
He talking about
dude.
stuff that don't exist on the internet.
I think you guys are wrong, but that's okay. We can move on from it.
Well, that pitch we just saw, he threw it right down the pipe. Boom.
It wasn't as bad as it could have been.
All right,
big man. So we might open the phone lines up about this a little later, but mini camp starts tomorrow. And one thing I applaud is that there is no story this year about, oh, well, we got to talk to these guys at mini camp because they weren't there at OTAs. Everybody's been there. There's none of that storyline this year. And I think that's a testament to the players more than anything, but also the players that, they went and targeted.
New staff, they don't want to start off on the wrong foot.
Exactly.
Guys.
Right. Yeah. It's all the people. And going into minicamp, though, this is the last time we're going to see these dudes till late July. This is the last time they're going to be together till late July. What are some of your biggest questions? We talked left tackle, but beyond that, going into minicamp.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's kind of nice that there isn't all the shenanigans we've had in years past about trying, about what's happening with the players, both on and off the field and the team and all that kind of stuff. I think it's going to be, to me, it's got to be how this secondary and how this defense is going to, outside of Jaden Daniels is the number one storyline, period. Mm-hmm. Left tackle, I think, is, to me, number two. And then thirdly, to me, is figuring out the secondary, because last year we saw guys running open downfield every game, multiple times in a row. There was a lot of blame that went to the players, and then now a lot of blame has gone towards the coaches. But at the end of the day, if you're giving up these 40-plus yard plays every game of the season, it's going to make it hard to win consistently. And so, you want to see how that secondary is going to play out, both who your starters are going to be at corner and safety, and also how they're going to use some of these different pieces that could be used in different ways. And, Jeremy Chin has gotten a lot of praise and, the different things that he can do in size and speed and strength and all those things. But I think it also comes down to, Mikey Stainer still and, some of these young guys to see how they fit in. Is Derek Forrest back healthy, looking good, making plays on the football? Because some of these guys, and, Jeremy Chin is one of them, are guys who are going to show a whole lot more in pads than they do out of pads because of their physicality. And so, you can get a feel for some of their athleticism and what they can do instinctually now during OTAs and minicamps. But once they put the pads on, it's a different story, and how they react and how they use their size and strength and physicality is going to be a big story of the secondary.
Yeah, I think, like, for me, my stories would be the big people. Who's going to be your pass rushers? Okay, we got Frankie Louvu, but who else is going to stand up and handle that job? Because you basically are starting over. And the offensive line, I understand we're going to talk about the left tackle mostly, but I think the whole line, because we haven't had good line play in a long time.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I find myself less concerned about the O-line. Certainly the tackle story is going to continue to be a story, but I find myself much more comfortable with what they're working with this year than what they have in years past. And I think it starts with Tyler Biadasz at center. I think that he's just a big difference
maker. That could
help
a lot.
Yeah, he just, having a rookie quarterback is a big deal, having an experienced center, but also, having him be able to help call out the plays and call out the line formations for these guys is going to be a big difference. And I do think that there's some concern on the edges about how the tackle play is going to be, but as a whole for the O-line, it's further down my list of concerns. Maybe it's a portion of it is that you have a guy like Jaden Daniels back there, a quarterback who can, do some different things and he can help, protect your offensive line or cover up some of their mistakes along the way. But to me, it's not as concerning as it's been in years past.
I just don't think we know enough, but I do think offensively they were so broken last year, and I still don't know what to make of. I think they threw the ball too much. They threw the ball most of any team in the NFL. I think Cliff's going to be more balanced, but I think it's still going to be a passing offense. You're not bringing in an air raid, no huddle dude to establish, 40 gut, or you know what I mean. Like it's going to
Good
look
play though.
different. What's that?
Good play.
Sure, sure. But I think I go back to last season. It's funny. I was talking with somebody that works for the team about this. I don't know how to reconcile still that Brissett gets in finally late in the year in two different games and just shreds. Jacoby Brissett came in and completed, and I think he played roughly three quarters, is what I'd say. And he completed 78% of his passes with 3 touchdowns and no picks. Like it just, I still don't know what to make of that. Like maybe the line wasn't that bad. Maybe Sam was that bad. Maybe Sam was hurt by that point in the year. Like it was just so bizarre. Um, I am tempted to basically throw all of last season's offense out the window because more or less outside of McLaurin and Brian Robinson and maybe some lesser players too. I mean Dotson, but like everything is so dramatically different, including the scheme and the system, that I don't want to say I'm not considering last year, but I just think it's such a refresh that we don't know what to expect. And maybe that does, in your situation, Mitchell, make you more optimistic about the O-line.
Yeah, last year was a broken year, and honestly, not the only one. I mean, we had essentially 2 straight years where a quarterback more or less refused to play in week 18 for this team because they didn't want to, make it a they didn't want to make it they didn't want to be forced into a bad situation. I think that tells you, how often you end up in a situation where Taylor Heineke's telling, Ron Rivera, like, hey, let Sam Howell play week 18. Like, I'm not stepping in after you benched me for Carson Wentz last week. And then, last year, Jacoby Brissett had a mysterious injury in week 18 and didn't play so that, Sam Howell could finish it up. I think that, you look across the NFL, there aren't a whole lot of quarterbacks who are going to turn down an opportunity to get an NFL start. And the fact that 2 straight years we ended up in a situation where guys were kind of like blowing off their coaches at the end of the year, I think tells you just how broken everything was. And yeah, the fact that they didn't run the ball last year hurts the offensive line every step of the way, especially when they're, set pass blocking the whole time and the team is losing the whole time. There is a whole lot that was broken last year. You look at Jahan Dotson, you look at Terry McLaurin, you look at the receiving group as a whole, and, they're better than what they put up last year, regardless of whether the O-line is good or bad, or regardless of whether the quarterback is, good or bad. They're better players. There's more athleticism on the field than they showed last year, and they're going to have an opportunity this year, I think, to do it. Especially when you talk about the offense that Cliff Kingsbury is going to bring in, because he's going to get the ball out quickly to these guys, and they're going to have an opportunity to run after the catch and pick up some yak and all those different things. And so I do think that I agree with you in some regards, as you kind of have to throw out last year, but it's tough because that's the newest memory we all have that when we think of this Commanders offense.
It's recency bias.
Totally right by that.
But B, that's what you've been saying all along. You believe there were players here that underperformed, that with different coaching, different strategy, it can look different.
Yeah, I just think that the holding people accountable is going to change a lot of stuff. I don't know. If you look at the last 4 years, the guys that were playing bad, they constantly put them back on the field. So if a guy isn't performing and you keep putting him on the field, what does he begin to think? I'm doing something right.
Right.
So they were awarding mediocrity. I don't think that's going to happen moving forward.
Let's hope.
I also think this roster isn't. I wouldn't call this roster deep yet, but it's deeper than it's been. And part of the reason that I think they kept throwing the same guys back out there the past couple of years is that there was zero depth, and that if a starter got hurt or wasn't playing well, there was no real option after him to come back in and play. And so we're not at a point where this roster is deep, but it's deeper. And I do think that there's some opportunities if starters aren't performing for them to bring in backups in select spots.
I love you, but I don't agree. I also think one of the big problems is like previously it was like, well, there were like I love what Joe Witt said about starters, especially on the defensive side of the ball where you have so many sub packages and so many different people playing. I just think the notion of that has changed. I don't think they have really any depth. I'm fascinated because there's this article talking about the linebacker position for Washington becoming this advantage, and it's been such a liability for so long. But I look at receiver, I look at corner. I very much worry about the depth. I think the way Peters wants to build this thing, he brought in veterans that can start for you, right? But he has to start hitting these draft picks damn near immediately to build the depth. That's the one thing the Niners organization did at such a masterful level was have depth all over the field that they're able to withstand serious injuries and losses.